Hey, what's good? It's me, your friendly neighborhood Joseph McClendon III, here to do a follow-up, a check-in, and a recap of what you already know to assist you to keep your eye on the target from when I saw you last so that you do this, go further, faster. And if this is your first time watching me and I haven't had the privilege of speaking to you, just follow up with us and we'll show you how to learn what they already know. And so this first video is going to be probably the longest one. It's only a few minutes. But I want you to listen to it and hear it as though you're hearing it for the first time and you're learning it for the first time again. And learn it as though you're going to teach it to somebody else, because I want you to. That way you have it for yourself. And those of you that have been to the event with me, you know the process is going to support what I am going to talk to you about. And so I'm only going to talk about two things here today. And again, I'm going to talk to you about these two things. And then on subsequent videos, I'm going to go deeper into each and every single one of them so you have some background. But always remember this, you don't have to know everything to get a result. And so the two things I'm going to talk about are, number one, how we function as human beings, and then number two, the toxic 10, the only things that keep us from going further, faster. And remember, this is unbelievably simple. I'm going to go through them real quick. So how we function as human beings, number one, is whatever we think will cause us to feel a certain way. Whatever we feel will cause us to do certain things. Whatever we do is going to get the results. It's always think, feel, do, have. That's it. That's how we function as human beings. The second thing is there's only 10 things that stop us from getting what we want and 3 things that help us go further, faster. The 3 things we'll talk about here a little bit later. But the 10 things, I'm going to go through each of them on subsequent videos after this. But for now, remember them. Here's what they are. I call them the toxic 10. Procrastination, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, self-doubt, self-loathing, imposter syndrome, stress, overwhelm, and fear of rejection. And those are the things, we all have them. We all go through them. And the trick is to not stay in them. They're going to happen to all of us. And when they do, obviously, what I taught you at the A Factor will trigger you to snap out of them quicker so that you go further, faster. Now, there are subsets of all of those things. Obviously, you can go, okay, well, what about this, Joseph? What about that? And they all fall under these 10. And these 10 represent fear, just fear, and that's it. And so what is fear? Fear is just an emotion, and it's triggered by what? By what you're thinking in that moment. So when you're fearful about something, something triggered you. You saw something, you heard something, you imagined something or whatever that triggered you to go into any one of those things, and they send you into what we call our sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight. And remember, fight or flight, you only have those 2 options. I mean, your sympathetic nervous system, you only have those 2 options, fight or flight. And most of us do the flight by scrolling on our phones or finding something else or eating cake or something like that, because our nervous system is designed to get out of pain and go towards pleasure, go towards something that feels better than what we have. It doesn't make sense sometimes, but that's how we function. So just remember this, whenever those things show up, they are just a signal for you to do something else, to program yourself so that you go another direction. And that's all I'm going to do. So this video, very, very short, very, very quick. Remember the toxic 10, remember how we function as human beings, think, feel, do, have. And the toxic 10 are the only things that keep us back, and those 10 are the things that we work on, and when we work on them, we develop, and let's just say, not a habit, but we develop a ritual that makes it so that that is our natural default. Remember, there's no fearless people, but there are people who fear less. But the less is the less time that they spend in those things. So when something shows up, we automatically default to that. Now that's what we call neuro-encoding, you remember that. And so remember this, the processes of being able to, let's just say, mitigate, shrink, and replace the toxic 10 with something else is what I taught you at the A Factor. You can go through those and also stay in touch with us, keep on the train, keep on going. I know some of you have done separate groups and things like that. I'm unbelievably proud of you. I look forward to seeing you again. And stay tuned, because I'm going to go through each of those toxic 10, each of those one by one, to give a little background, a little explanation so that you can feel more certain about it. And always remember this, life is always exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold, baby. So I look forward to seeing you again, and I'll see you at the top. Hey, what's good? Me again, back with the first of the toxic 10. Now remember, awareness is always the first step to changing anything. And so I'm just going to tell you these things very, very quickly, very, very shortly, and very simply so that you understand and you can be aware of them so that you can do something about them. The first is procrastination. Now, by definition, if you look it up, it says that procrastination is the act of putting off something until the last moment or till a later date. But we know that acts or activities are always preceded by what? By an emotion. So if you want to do something about it, go to the core. The core is the emotion. Around here in neuroencoding, procrastination is the emotion that is produced when we think about doing something now, and that causes us to feel like by doing it now, it's going to cause us some sort of inconvenience, some sort of pain, or some sort of uncomfortableness, if you will. Now, that feeling alone will cause you, because that is some sort of fear. And what do we do when fear happens? We fight or flight. And that alone will cause us to flight and go do something else. But what most people don't think about is this, and this is what you know, and that is this, that oftentimes when that happens, we genuinely feel like we will do it tomorrow. We will do it later, and it's better for me to do it later. And we make excuses, and those things go on inside of our minds. And that dance causes us to distract and to go do something else. Said differently, in the moment when procrastination is happening, when that feeling is, we're looking for a way to get rid of that feeling. And the feeling is, I'll do it tomorrow. Or the feeling is, I'll do it a little bit later. And we get out of it in that moment and we get distracted and do something else. Know that's what it is, so that the next time that it happens, and this is with all of it, the next time you feel yourself procrastinating, go, oh, I caught myself. Interrupt your pattern. You can do your stop techniques or anything that I've already shared with you to start to mitigate that stuff. Lastly, do not wait. Matter of fact, attack those things like they attack you. And remember, life's always exactly what you dare to make it. Fortune favors the bold. I'll see you on the next video. All right, back at you again with the second of the toxic 10. And again, unbelievably simple. And that is hesitation. And you're going to find that 90% of these toxic 10 have something in common. They're similar to the other. Some of them are just a little bit different than the others, but they all are based in fear. So what is hesitation? Hesitation is the feeling that we get. Well, again, if you look it up, it is the act of not doing something immediately, not doing it now. But around here, again, we know that that act is preceded by the feeling. What is the feeling? It is the feeling that is produced by when we think about or we're triggered to do something now, make a decision or get up and go do something now. In this moment right now will cause us to feel some sort of uncomfortableness, some sort of inconvenience, or some sort of pain. We just feel it in that moment. It might not, it probably isn't true. It causes us to second guess ourselves. It causes us to pull back. It causes us to go do something else instead of doing what is right there in front of us. And the challenge with that is, by hesitating, oftentimes opportunities go by, things happen, and we lose the chance to do something now. So again, when that feeling comes up, when we know we should do something, we're going, well, I don't know about that. I catch yourself in the moment. Go, oh, I caught myself. Because remember, any pain, the pain of indecision, the pain of procrastination, hesitation, is a signal for you to do something. Do what? Interrupt that pattern. Do what? Catch yourself and go, oh, I caught myself. Let me take a deep breath. Let me relax. Let me do my stop techniques or whatever. And again, don't just wait to do the stop techniques. Don't just wait to do something when it happens. Do it early. Practice it. And you will develop the skill. You will develop the habit, if you will, of doing something now. Now, always, and I'm going to remind you every single time, when you've done it, even if you've caught yourself, pat yourself on the back, praise yourself, give yourself some sort of recognition that you've done it. Remember, life's always exactly what you dare to make it. Fortune favors the bold. I'll see you on the next one. All right, the third of the toxic 10, fear of failure. Fear of failure. Now, this is rampant in a lot of, especially achievers or would-be achievers. And what is fear of failure? It is just the emotion, the feeling that we get, and that is produced by when we think about doing something, if we do it, we might not succeed. Now, that is obvious, and that is going to be, you might not succeed, but is the feeling that you get that if I don't succeed, something bad is going to happen. Something uncomfortable is going to happen. People are going to judge me. I'll judge myself. I got to start all over again. I'm going to lose money. I'm going to do that kind of thing. So what does that do? Fight or flight. Most of us will hesitate and we'll go do something else. Oftentimes we'll freeze in one place. We won't decide, just like procrastination, just like hesitation. But that fear of failure is deeper because it also involves other people and ourselves judging ourselves as well. And as you're going to find out later, that is deep embedded into our nervous system. So how do we achieve that, mitigating that fear of failure? First off, recognize that what you're not thinking in the moment is if you succeed. Why would you do it anyway? Why are you going to do it anyway? because your brain in that moment is thinking, I'm fail, 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 instead of going over here, wow, there's all kinds of opportunities if I do succeed. And it'll cause you to be optimistic and go, well, I could do this to maybe circumvent this other thing that I might have failed before. I could go get a mentor. I could learn from something else. I can learn from someone else. Remember, when we are pessimistic, which is when we're fearing failure or anything like that, we only have two options, and the options are fight or flight. When we're optimistic, we have other options, if you will. And the other options, we start to train our brain to look for, oh, wait a minute, I could do this, I could do that. So remember, when you're feeling that emotion, catch yourself and go, oh, I caught myself again. Let me look over here, look at what I can do. And that fear of failure will start to mitigate. Remember, life's always exactly what you dare to make it. Fortune favors the bold. I'll see you on the next one. All right, back with the fourth of the toxic 10, and that is fear of success. Now, it is similar to fear of failure, but fear of success is the fear of, or the feeling, or the emotion that is produced when we think about, if I succeed at something, something uncomfortable, something painful, something negative is going to happen if I do that. Yes, I'm going to get the benefit of succeeding, but at what cost? I'm going to lose friends, or I'm going to have to keep on doing this. I'm going to have to work harder. People are going to judge me, or I'm going to judge myself, those kinds of things. And all of those thoughts that are going on inside of our heads, that constitutes that fear of failure. So fear of success. And what happens is we go, well, I'm not going to apply myself as much. And we find ourselves sabotaging ourselves. And I know you've sabotaged yourself. I know I have in the past as well. And we wind up diverting back to procrastination and hesitation. See how this works? And we wind up doing something else. We don't do something. We become paralyzed. We get in that fight or flight. And what happens with most people is they go, again, you go back to the procrastination, I'll do it later. Or you get into something that I call, it's even worse, and that is the paralysis of analysis. I got to learn more. I got to do this before I do that. I got to do this before that. And we become, I'm going to give the word later, a little bit more overwhelmed in doing something. So remember, when it shows up, when you're thinking about it, and it's always precedes anything that we're going to do, when it shows up, go, oh, wait a minute, I caught myself. I caught myself. And pat yourself on the back just for having caught yourself. Reward yourself for having caught yourself, because your nervous system will quickly learn that if I catch myself and I snap myself out of it, then I will step up and do something. Always, always, always reward yourself. And these things, remember, we learned them at the A Factor. You've learned about how to specifically do a process that's going to change it so that it becomes a habit with you. So remember, fear of success, like fear of failure, is just that if I do something that's going to be uncomfortable, I'll see you on the next one. All right, back with you with the fifth of the toxic 10, and that is the dreaded self-doubt. We've all got it from time to time, but it is the one that this one and the next one, the ones that hit the deepest, if you will, because it's personal. Look at the name, self-doubt. It's not just fear of failure, fear of success. It is you. It is us that is going, I might succeed. It's me. It's my fault. And I probably can't do it because I've failed at this before, because I've done this before. So I doubt that I can do this again. And that feeling that is produced is when we think about doing something and we tie it to something about ourselves in the past where we have failed before, or we have misstepped before, or we've made a mistake before. That link produces that feeling, that doubt about ourselves. We take it personally. We go, it's about me. I can't do it. I'm the one that's going to be at fault. I'm the one that is lacking in the skill or the intelligence, or I'm the one that's this. It's all personal. We bring it into ourselves. And so the trick is, if you will, is to get it outside of yourself. Step outside of, and by the way, all we're doing is judging ourselves. We're comparing ourselves to things that have happened in the past that we may not have succeeded at. And when we do that, it's just the feeling that comes up. But what is common with all of these is when we're trapped in it, we're in that loop. What do we not do? We don't recognize that we're in it. And what do? We go eat cake, scroll on our phone, watch Netflix, or do something else. Instead of going, oh, wait a minute, let me snap myself out of it in the moment, and let me go work on it. And remember, always work on it ahead of time. That's the name of the game. Do not wait till it shows up. Kill the monster while it's a baby. So that self-doubt is when we take things personally. It's about me. I'm inadequate. I'm this, that kind of thing. And all of those things, because we've failed a lot in our lives, but we've succeeded a lot in our lives as well. So remember those successes. Always remember, life's always exactly what you dare to make it. I dare you to look at how awesome you are. And I'll see you at the top. All right, back with you with number 6. And it is on par with the previous one, which was self-doubt, and that is self-loathing. And again, it's in the name, self. We take it upon ourselves. We judge ourselves. And oftentimes, I'm not going to use the word hate, but oftentimes we despise ourselves. We feel that we're the worst and we hate who we are. But here's the deal. It's the feeling that's produced when we have those feelings, just like self-doubt, but we also attach to it that thing in our brain that if other people only knew the truth about how bad I am, how inadequate I am, how much I failed in the past, how much I didn't do what I said I was going to do, or maybe I lied about something or whatever. And we're putting it, not only we're judging ourselves, but we're judging ourselves through other people's eyes. And we're going, if they only knew, they know that I'm an imposter. They'd know that I'm a fake. They'd know that this whole thing is a facade. And that's going through our mind reminds us of things that we failed before, but we put it out on somebody else. We're saying that somebody else is judging us this way. My mom used to always say to me, what other people think is none of your business. Oftentimes, they're not thinking that at all. And if there are things that you failed at, or there are things that maybe you're not up to par on that, correct it, change it, or just don't talk about it. Do something else. And most of the time, what you're going to find is they're not even thinking about you anyway. And what you're going to find is that you're the one that's judging you through their eyes. So this self-loathing, this self-hatred, if you will, only produces cortisol and stress hormones instead of going, well, wait a minute. Here's what I've succeeded. Here's what I've done before. And going to work on changing that emotion. Because 99% of the time, it's not true. Remember, you control this, which controls this, which controls this, which controls what you get. Self-loathing is a facade. I'll see you at the top. All right, number 7, imposter syndrome. This one is the one that is more self-administered than all of them. They're all self-administered, but this one more than the rest of them. Because it is the one that we feel like that if people only knew that I am not who I purport myself to be, or not as I appear to be. We may think of ourselves as that other people look at us and they go, I'm a strong person, and then I'm a competent person, I'm a successful person. But if they only knew I'm living paycheck to paycheck, if they only knew that I'm not as smart as I really, if they only knew that I have these bad habits, I have those things, if they only knew, and with ourselves as well. And we hold ourselves accountable to things that other people may not even think that at all. But the truth of the matter is, if there is something that you're lacking in, if there is something that we're not living up to that standard, we can change it. And that's what we're forgetting in that moment. If I'm not this really, well, then I can do something about it. But there's no sense feeling guilty about it, And by the way, most people don't, my mom used to always say, other people don't think that much of themselves, let alone what they think about you. And even if they do, that's their business. The truth of the matter is that when we feel that way, it's just a feeling that we're assuming the worst. We're assuming that this is happening. We're assuming it this way. And even if it's the truth, even if you're not as smart as you think other people think you are, or you're not as smart as you could be, you can always change it. You can always make a difference. Remember, optimism means you have more options. And look at it. But the best way to do it is when you're feeling that feeling, snap out of it and go, what can I do about it? Snap out of it. Use the stop technique. Your pattern interrupts, whatever it is, to put yourself in that state where you go, okay, if there's something that I need to change, what can I do about it now? And you put yourself in that mode, and what happens is the imposter syndrome starts to shrink and mitigate, and you start to turn into that kind of person that is more ambitious, and you feel better about yourself, and that's the best part about it. And you start to witness and start to see the things that are best about you. Imposter syndrome is a myth, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you at the top. All right, number 8, the one that accompanies all of them, and that is stress. Stress is the action of the body producing and releasing into our bloodstream hormones, specific hormones. Let's just call them stress hormones. Things like cortisol, epinephrine, and adrenaline. And on their own, they're useful to get you into action, to get you to do something because it doesn't feel good. Remember, those hormones are designed to put us into our sympathetic nervous system so that we do something about it. But the challenge is that most of the people, if we don't do something about it, then we stay in that loop and it stays in our nervous system, especially low-level stress. You see, when the tiger showed up, the saber-toothed tiger showed up for the caveman went into stress. He went, tiger, eat me, goes into stress. The cortisol, the epinephrine, and the And the adrenaline goes through and he goes, fight this thing or get the hell out of here. And he does something about it. He doesn't just sit there and go, okay, well, let me go eat cake or scroll on my phone. But nowadays we have low-level stress because when the tiger shows up, he fights it and wins, or runs away and wins, or he loses. Either way, the stress is gone. In our case, we don't. It continues to flow through us. And so what is it produced by? Procrastination, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, self-doubt, self-loathing, all of those things produce those things. The trick is always, when we're in it, do something about it. But also don't wait. Interrupt that pattern. Do your stop techniques. Do whatever it takes to mitigate those at the very least, and replace them with something else that serves you. Stress is a physical thing that is produced by the thoughts of, if I do this, or if this happens, if this bad thing happens, something bad's going to happen to me, that kind of thing. And when it does, those hormones are coursing through our bones, our blood. But it happens like that. But guess what else can happen like that? Oxytocin and all of the other great things as well. Remember, life's always exactly what you dare to make it. Fortune favors the bold, baby. I'm out. All right, back at you with number 9, overwhelm. This is actually one of my favorite ones. I shouldn't say favorite ones, but easiest to explain and easiest to do something about as well. Now, it is stress and it is one of the toxic 10s, but overwhelm is simply having too many emotionally charged things inside of our head. Things that we got to do, things that we should do, things that we shouldn't do. We're overwhelmed. We got so many thoughts inside of our heads that's going around and around, and it combined with all the other things that we have to do. And the trick is, or the challenge is that we keep on thinking it, we keep on making it worse than it is. Overwhelm is just getting it inside of our heads, or having it inside of our heads. How do you get over it? First off, you got to interrupt that pattern. You got to realize I'm in overwhelm in this moment. I feel like I got too much to do. It's too much on me. Stop in the second, take a deep breath. You're interrupting your pattern and go, okay, wait a minute. Let me get it out of my head. Write it down. Now, oftentimes when you write it down, I always say list it. And when you list it, oftentimes you start to get a little bit more overwhelmed. In the beginning, when you start to go, I think about this. But all you're doing is getting it out of your head. And what you're going to find most of the time is that you run out of stuff. My nephew, last night, we were talking and he goes, I just started this business and there's a billion things to do. There's a billion, I got to do this, I got to do a billion things to do. No, there's not. I said, get out a piece of paper, let's take a look. What do you got? And he had like 12 things to do. But in his brain, because it's in his head, he's going, I got, a billion things to do. And that is overwhelming in that moment. So when you take it out, you put it on paper, number 1. Number 2, prioritize that list. Go, what's the most important thing? And number 3, and when you do that, you'll start to release that because it's outside of your head. And then the next thing is do something about at least the first thing on the list. Last thing is always praise yourself because you did something about it, snapping yourself out of it. Most of us get caught up in that spiral and we keep on stacking it up. It seems bigger and bigger inside of our head instead of bifurcating, or instead of taking it and making it less than it really is and seeing what it is. I'll see you on the next one, last one. And here we are, we've arrived at number 10, fear of rejection. Fear of rejection. Now this one, I will say, this video may take a little bit longer because it's a little bit more in depth, if you will, in terms of the explanation of it. Fear of rejection. It's the number 1 fear of all human beings. Now, here's what I want you to know. Fear of rejection is a defense mechanism, or shall I say a survival mechanism that's built inside every single one of us as human beings. Think about this. Out of all of the animals on the planet, human beings are the one that need other people around us, someone else around us, to give us our physical and emotional needs more than any other animal on the planet. Why? Because if somebody's not around us to feed us, to take care of us, to clean us, to love us, then we'll die. There's so many experiments of it. You can go back and take a look at it. Then we'll die. We need somebody else around. Not the same with other animals. You think about a lizard when it's born. It's hatched from an egg. It never even sees its parents. Birds, their parents take care of them for a little while, and then they kick them out. They're on their own. They're self-sufficient. Human beings, not so much. We need it longer into our later ages. But you grow up, and we don't need that. But we feel like we do. If we don't do something about mitigating that, if we don't do something about getting rid of that and recognizing that, wait a minute, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. And then it'll always live underneath us. It is why public speaking is the number 1 fear of human beings. It is why people don't go out and introduce themselves to people. It's why a man won't walk up to a woman because she'll reject him. Those kinds of things. But rejection is just the emotion that is produced when we think about doing something, if we do something, other people will disapprove, judge, or reject us. And that feeling, going back to the previous one, produces stress hormones. And what does that do? Fight or flight. We usually withdraw. We usually don't do it. And you can go all the way back down the line through all of them. Fear of rejection is the root of 90% of them. It's the root of most of them because and by the way, it's not just fear of rejection of other people, it's fear of rejection of ourselves as well. Because we beat ourselves up and we reject ourselves, and that doesn't feel good. So what do you do about it? Cause it to happen, think about it, interrupt that pattern. Interrupt that pattern, praise yourself. If you just do that over and over again and you start to recognize that, wait a minute, I've lived this long and I'm probably going to live longer. It doesn't matter what other people think about me. Most of the time, people are not even thinking about you. I can tell you over and over in my life, I thought people were thinking these things of me, and they weren't thinking it at all. Now, this might sound a little bit arrogant, but wherever I go, I assume that people like me. I assume it in my heart and in my brain that they do. Now, do they always? No. There may be people that just hate my guts. But guess what? Guess what I'm feeling? I'm feeling like I'm okay. It doesn't matter what they're thinking about me. I want people to like me. I'm human. But it doesn't matter. And when we start to feel that way, it doesn't make us feel like I don't care about other people. It starts to make us feel better about ourselves. And that fear of rejection starts to mitigate. And that fear of rejection starts to go in its box where it needs to be. And when it shows up, you go, wait a minute, I'm good. So these have been the toxic 10. You can go back over them. You don't have to know them, but just recognize that they're there. And the reason I went through them is so that you can do something about it. Use the processes that I've taught you. And again, if you're listening to this for the first time, just follow up with us. There's got to be a link around here somewhere where you can follow up with us and you can find out how to use these processes to rid yourselves of those as well. Thank you so much for your attention and for your energy and your trust. And remember this, I always say it, life's always exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold, baby. Boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent, and I will see you at the top.